Okay, back to Mishlei. A little tired. Back to Mishlei though. So we are doing 24.9, which is very related, at least thematically, to the previous one. So let's actually just really quickly look at the previous one. I don't even remember the idea, and the idea might not be related, but definitely the topic is related. So the last one was Machshavah Lab lo bal mezimos yikra'u, one who plots or plans to do bad, a master of plots he will be called. Okay, that was 24.8. And then we have, we can review that if we need to. Then we have our pasuk, zimas iveles chatas v'to'avas la'adam leit. Excuse me, translation is a little bit difficult for this one. There's a lot of ambiguities here. You want to take a stab?
Sure. Zima is licentiousness.
Okay, so this is that's the first ambiguity, right? Because Zima usually is licentiousness, right? But there are a lot of meforshim who say that Zima is just another form of the word mezimos.
It's like plot.
Yeah, so let's say, yeah, so plotting or licentiousness. Okay, licentiousness meaning like any sort of sexual unrestrainedness, indulgence, promiscuity. Chatas.
Of foolishness or.
Okay, yeah, so that's another ambiguity, right? Which is well, let's put it this way. I think this is definitely going to be its own clause.
Is foolishness.
Yeah, is
Well, it could be zimas ivelos.
oh, sorry. I'm thinking it wrong. Yeah. Of foolishness
is sin.
Okay. The to'avas la'adam leit.
And the mantra is a abomination person.
Okay, so yeah, here's 3 ways to translate this at least. So one is to say, basically, it's just reversing the subject and the predicate, and a leit is an abomination to people, right? And a scoffer is an abomination to people, okay? Or I can see 2 more ways to translate that second half.
So another way to translate the first half too. No?
Yeah, there's more ways to translate the first half, yeah. So the other way to take it is to say that to'avas is a continuation of qualification of this. Okay, so you could say, and an abomination to a person who is a scoffer. Okay, or right. In other words, zima is 2 things. Zima is ivelis. Zimas ivelis is 2 things. It's chatas and it is a to'ava to an autumn late, okay? And a third way to translate it, we'll see in the meforshim. Yeah.
Can chatos possibly be translated this? It definitely does not work in context, but sometimes chatos is used as like a word purifying.
Oh, that would be. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I don't know. I would be what do you call it? Inclined against it here simply because the 2 halves do seem to both be negative.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could come up with a way to interpret the first half as negative even without. Yeah. But that's definitely the lesser usage. Okay, so let's just see what. Hold on, I feel like there's another way to translate the first half. Zimas iveles chatas. Zimas iveles chatas.
The plotting of foolishness? No.
The plotting, yeah. See, I think there are some who translate it also as the plotting of a foolish man, like an ish ivelis. Even though the weird thing is that you have a word for that, which is a veal.
What about a female? That was like a female.
Yeah, no. For some reason, they don't use that. They don't use that term. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna just add this here, or the zima of a foolish person is sin. That's not actually, that'd be a good word. Okay. yeah, Isaac.
Just a question about that. Does Mishlei ever use the feminine for people if it's not specifically talking about
no. Yeah, I think that'd be why. Yeah, and usually it's clear from the context, or it uses the exact word isha. Okay. There's no mitzvah on this one. Unfortunately, Sadigon says ha'iveles zima v'chatas. Okay, that's a different way. Okay, so foolishness is zima and sin. Okay, so it sounds like he's using zima here as like licentiousness, but that's also weird, you know. Vahaletzus mituebis la'adam. So that's kind of going with our first translation, and scoffing is abominable to man. Okay, and then the Targum I think is not helpful. Tar Isa is just a straight translation of zima. Deshatia means of a fool. Cheta is sin.
The person is a fool.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it is helpful in the sense that it's our parenthetical one. Umarachakta is just the Targum of toeva usually, which means something that you abominate or you find abominable. It means you distance yourself from it. Umarachakta the barnash, nasha, an abomination of a person. Chakima. Oh, actually, I forgot to look at this one. Chakima mimaknusa. All right, I got to look that one up. How did I forget to look up the most important word? All right, let's look up Jastro. Oh, my computer's already slow, like me. What is it? Maknusa. Chakima mi maknusa, from maknusa. That's the face I was making too. Maknusa.
Maknusa. That's not. Unless it's a bundle of reeds, then I don't think.
That's the real Kiddush here. Yeah, Maknisa. Yeah, that does not look right. How else would it be?
Oh, was it reed?
Maknusa. Max. I'm gonna just on a lark look up Knusa. Yeah, Knusa. Knusa.
It's Chakima.
That's just Chachma.
Okay.
Knuknos. That's a fun word. No, that's not. It's not there. Duxustus, yeah, one of the best words ever. All right, yeah, bless you. Yeah, Hakima mimakus. Okay, I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to speculate. All right, so we'll just eliminate it. Okay, so then we have. Let's look at what our English translations say because we didn't even get there yet. Art Scroll says foolish designs are a sin. Okay, so that's kind of like our first one. All right, and scoffing is abominable to man. Okay, that's kind of like our non-parenthetical translation.
Oh
yeah, you got it?
But I found the references.
Okay.
You actually went back for the second half.
It's still Art Scroll.
What?
You went to.
Oh, I did? Okay. And scoffing makes man abominable. All right. Scoffing.
But mikna is a scorner.
Okay. So Chakima mimaknusa is wisdom from a scorner. Right? So there is reversing. What was it?
Or is it scornery?
Scornery?
Yeah.
Chakima mimaknusa.
Yeah, Miknusa is scorn.
Yeah. Okay. Let me attempt that. Targum. I mean, Chakima, I think just is Chachma. And wisdom from, I'll also use the word scoffery, is abominable to man. You know what? That actually looks very much like 24:8, right? Because 24:8 is also talking about perception, right? One who plans to do bad, master plots, he will be called. And then this kind of like is a good parallel to that wisdom from scoffery is abominable to man. All right.
It also works just in terms of the relationship to the previous podcast. If we translate Zima as plotting, then it's also taught.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Living Nach says a foolish scheme is a crime. Oh, like chatas. Okay, fine. So using the word not with a religious connotation. And a scoffer is an abomination to men. Okay, fine. All right, so we got that. Rav Hirsch, who I finally am starting to be able to incorporate here, because now that we have Rav Hirsch, evil perpetuated by folly is sin. I don't know, evil is a little interesting there, but in a sinner, it becomes abominable to every man. So he's trying to make it one sentence. Alter says the foulness of foolishness is an offense. The scoffer is loathed by people, literally people's loathing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, we got a lot of possibilities here. So let's just kind of try to keep it as fluid as possible, and then just keep all the English up here. Let me just move this down. Oh man, this is messy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. What do we have here?
What is Zima?
Yeah. What is Zima? So that's going to be a main question, which is it a word for planning, or is it a word for licentiousness? Yeah. So that's going to be like a fork in the road. I feel like anytime we give an interpretation of this puzzle, we got to start off with addressing how are we translating it. Yeah.
Which word is the noun in the first half?
Which word is the noun in the first half? So what are the possibilities? Either
I think it's Tefilah or Chatas.
Oh, I was gonna say Zima. Yeah. Yeah, it could be all three.
Like the subject?
What's the subject? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it could be all three, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because Tefilah can be qualified.
Yeah. What is the subject in the first clause? Yeah, Ariel?
It's just funny, like how do you plot something of foolishness? It's like is he a fool? Is he not a fool?
Well, I mean, I see people plotting things with foolishness all the time. Yeah.
I know, but those people are plotting. It's like it seems like are you able to be a fool and plot something like that? That's not
right. I mean, it's going to be right. It's going to be a chatas. It's going to be a some sort of that's the other translation for chatas. Actually, what? Yeah, mistake. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So sin or because remember the shorish of chet tet aleph means either to sin or to miss a target, right? Misfire.
Yeah,
right? That actually works out. Yeah.
Jumping on Arlo's question, does plotting foolishness mean that the goal of the plotting is foolish, or that the way the goal is attained is foolish?
Okay, so I'm gonna just add this here. What are the subjects and what are the predicates in the first clause, right? What is the subject? Is the subject, and what are the predicates in the first clause, and how? Yeah, and then implied how do they qualify each other?
I could go to Google and save myself the humiliation of understanding what a predicate is.
So
can you just explain more?
When you say like the dog ran.
The dog ran.
So the dog is subject, and you are predicating running of the dog. Or if you say the black dog, then there's what you're talking about and what you're saying about the thing. Okay. And every sentence has a subject and a predicate. Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it asking that because it's not 100% clear.
Yeah. Okay. Loha baishan lo made. The baishan is the subject, and him not learning is the predicate. Yeah.
No.
Okay, yeah, David.
Two other questions. What's the connection between the two halves?
Okay, what is the connection between the two halves? And here we also have another fork in the road, which is the second clause is the second clause independent, and clause is the guy who visits you on Christmas, or is it another qualification of the subject in the first half? Yeah,
and then also why bring in leads over here?
Yeah, it seems a little random, doesn't it?
So why particularly the leads?
Yeah, what is the lates doing here? Yeah, and my sense is that I usually don't inject my own intuition into the thing this early, but I feel like we need like some grounding here. I do really feel like this flows naturally from the previous one, that we're talking about the relationship between public perception and types of bad thinking, and like the lates, like the lates definitely fits into that category. People definitely have strong feelings about a lates. Yeah.
Can you just go back to the previous translations, the other translations? Yeah, I just wanted to read through them.
I don't think we've had one that's this difficult to translate in a long time. This is really like every single combination is ambiguous.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like any of the words are hard to translate what they mean.
Yeah.
It's just that it
Yeah.
feels like a jigsaw puzzle.
It does, yeah. Oh, I'm realizing now where Alter gets this from. Zima is okay. I don't know this for sure, but in the Arayos, I forgot which of the Arayos is called Zimahi. It is Zima.
Sleeping with your sister.
Oh, is it?
That was
Okay.
another time.
Okay, we can look it up. We have access to the
Right off the
word of
bat.
God. Let's see.
A lot of possibilities, honestly.
Zima. Zimahi.
I feel like Arayos are not being called planning.
Yeah.
Usually the opposite of planning.
Sorry, this is so slow. All right, Zima is in scrolling. Ish. Wait, is that the first one? Or was there another? Oh no, it's not the first one. Hold on. What's going on? No. Oh, it's so slow. What? Oh, there we go. Ervas isha ubita lo sagale as bas bana as bas bita lo sikach legalas ervasa sha'ara hena zimahi. Right. So a woman and her daughter. And then in Vayikra 20:14, Vaish asher yikach as ishav as imah, because that's a similar thing. Zimahi. Oh, that's it. Okay, fine. So that's easy.
So sleeping with your
With
with
basically two generations, right? Yeah, a mother and a daughter. Yeah. Or a daughter and a mother. Yeah. So I think there, that might be where Alter's getting it from. Foulness, like that is a like you could say that it means it's licentious, but I think the connotation is like it's like a disgusting thing, Yeah.
I guess the question.
Which also fits in. In fact, I think the reason why I'm also drawn to alters is it seems to'eva is definitely like a condemnatory term. Like that's disgusting, and it would make sense if the first half is saying that's disgusting, right? Like it's a zima and it's a to'eva, Yeah.
I mean, the altar is kind of also fun to understand. Also, like the foulness of foolishness is an offense.
Yeah.
Like okay. Well, I mean, at least when we this is a question, right?
Yeah.
So like someone who's a fool, like, all right. I mean, okay, the guy is, he's foolish. You don't really view him as someone who's
Right.
a foul person.
Yeah. Offensive.
Offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
In what way is he offensive, and in what way is his foolishness a foulness?
Yeah. It's a legitimate. Yeah. I don't even know how to ask these questions. Yeah. Hold on a second. If Zima is a term of condemnation like to'eva, then why use such a harsh term for foolishness, right? Yeah.
So I just wanted to go over our understanding of what evelis is. It's not just like stupidity, right?
Okay, so what is evelis in this context? Yeah, what is evelis in this context?
Yeah. My understanding is that it's short-term decision making.
Yeah, that's one working definition that we have, but it's a little bit more than short-term decision making in the sense that you've got the opening pasuk of Mishlei, thesis of Mishlei is Yiras Hashem Reishis Das Chacham Musar Evilim Bazu, right? So that fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge, and then Evilim despise Chachma and Musar. So you could say the lighter way of regarding that is that because they are attached to short-term pleasure, then they will reject Chachma and Musar, which diminish their ability to be involved with that. The more severe way to say it is that they have a sort of like a primary or intrinsic like despising attitude towards Chachma and Musar, that's a term we have to define.
Okay, but it's not just like low IQ.
It's definitely not low IQ. Yeah.
But there's an excellent reveal.
Right. So the way our working definitions have been that, or our main working definitions have been that the avil is the more generic term for someone who's attracted to immediate who's caught up in immediate pleasure, and the seal is someone who's done that. The veteran pleasure seeker was the term that we came up with. That he's done that for many years, and it's become like a part of his way of operating and his like philosophy that he like, and then therefore the seal is far gone than the avil in that he's going to like actively hate, and be like philosophically against anything that goes against his lifestyle. But again, these terms are always being redefined. Yeah.
So what's the difference between pesi and avil?
So pesi is the easier one to define. So pesi is taken in by, like, my definition. Okay, Chazal's definition is he's pate b'yetzer, someone who's seduced by his yetzer. And my definition is a pesi is someone who operates on the principle of what feels good is good and what feels true is true. But the key difference is that he's still malleable. So you put the pesi in good influences, then he can be influenced for the good, and or you help him to realize that, this thing is going to feel bad, and like he could be influenced by it. And that's why Mishlei is talking to a pesi, but it's not talking to an avil or a seal. Yeah, and the pesi also doesn't have this hatred of Chacham and Musar. He's open to it. It's just that he's not exposed to it, or he doesn't see the good. Yeah.
Which side of the nar?
Which side of the nar? So that depends on whether we go with nar with my working definition, which has been being chipped away over the years.
What's the standard like?
So my definition of nar had been the neutral Mishlei personality, someone who is just not developed in terms of Chachma and also in terms of years. Rabbeinu Yonah views the nar as someone who is involved in bad decisions and foolishness, but he's still, the Rabbeinu Yonah says what makes the nar in the audience of Mishlei is that he is under the dominion of an authority, usually his father, who can punish him, and he's also still young, so he hasn't developed these habits. But then once the nar is out of those either of those two categories, then he's in avil or ksil territory. And so according to that, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, pesi is definitely better off than the nar. What was it?
It's not really linear.
It's not linear. Yeah, right. You mean in terms of
them being on like the same like?
Yeah, no, it's not right. Meaning it's just a according to my way of conceiving it, it's just who's on the good or the bad end of Mishlei, and according to Rabbeinu Yonah, it's really developmental stages. That the nar, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, every ksil or avil started off as a nar. It's just that he had hope while he was an nar. Yeah.
Going back to the pasuk.
Yeah. Wait, we're learning a pasuk. Yeah. Yeah.
What are the subjects and predicates of the second pasuk? Second half.
Yeah.
Pasuk?
We'll just add this and the second. Yeah.
Yeah. What is a to'eva?
Okay. What is to'eva in this context? And I'll say to'eva in this context, and to whom, right? So that's kind of going to be built into our translation, that if it's to'eva to people, then that would be one answer. Another answer is that if this is qualifying the first half, then zima is a to'eva to a person who is a late. And if you say, and the third one is the broadest one, which is a late. Wait, no, never mind. I think those are the two. Yeah, Ezra.
What's the point of adding what Adam lights? Assuming points that.
Right. So confusing. Are you know what let's do? Let's fit in. Okay, let's actually just not list any more questions. Let's just start interpreting the pasuk. I think that'd be easiest. Yeah.
Can we just go to altar? I kind of like this guy. Right?
Yeah. Let me delete this. Let's put all the translations up here. Okay. Yeah. Oof.
Can I give an initial?
Go ahead, please do. Yeah.
It's not grounded or anything. But
that's fine.
It's just worthwhile at this point. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe I'm gonna go with the author. Like the main question that I have on the first half is it's like to who is there an offense?
Yeah. Right.
I want to say that maybe it's an offense to the to the system of the world of Chachma.
Oh, the greatest defense there is. Yeah. Okay.
It's attacking the whole like reality of what's true.
Well, hold on a second. Are you Okay, sorry. Foolish. So you're going with foolish. Wait. Okay, so he's not. Sorry. He's totally eliminating the need to define plotting or licentiousness, right? Yeah. All right. So sorry. Go ahead. I just have to get my head in the right.
Foulness of foolishness is an offense.
Right. Okay.
All right.
That's a.
Yeah, it's like who's
It's an objectively an offense. It's an absolute offense.
It's an objective offense to reality.
Yeah. Okay. That's a nice thought. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, I was hold on a second. I had an idea that I heard from.
It's just funny because it was YBT.
No, it reminds me of we haven't done the Blial in a long time, have we?
I have not seen it.
Okay, yeah, the autumn Blial. So I was listening to a shiur earlier this week from Rabbi Moskowitz on the Ish Blial, or the Bogate, which is a traitor. And so like the standard interpretation is he betrays people, but then Rabbi Moskowitz was saying he's a traitor to reality. He's an absolute traitor, which is why it doesn't specify who he's a traitor to. So I see that there. Yeah, Isaac.
So I have a different approach, which is I think that if a person is planning something that's foolish, if he's talking about his plans to other people, they'll try to discourage him from it if they see that it's bad. But he's not going to listen because he's an avil. Yeah. And then the other people will see it as a chatas, because they'll see it as like a mistake, but basically they'll look negatively at him because they'll say, "Oh, we told you it was going to be bad, and then you did it anyway."
Wait, so how are you reading the first half again?
Plotting of foolishness is a mistake.
Plotting foolishness is a mistake. Okay, right.
Yeah, and this is with regards to other people's perception.
Meaning it will be regarded as a mistake. Plotting foolishness will be regarded as a mistake. Okay. Yeah. And then does that dictate how we would read the second half?
I haven't thought so much about this.
Okay, let's think it through. And then the Avos L'Adam Lates. Yeah, the difficulty really is I think we have to justify why the Lates is in here. Yeah.
Maybe the Lates will like take him to task for it, like meaning the Lates is gonna maybe it's not just a mistake, but it's like a toeva.
See, but isn't that? I mean, not that this is impossible, but isn't that like praiseworthy of the Lates? Like that the Lates is recognizing it, that this guy is.
I'd say yes, but the point, but the audience is the person who would be plotting Evelis, and so saying that the Lates is gonna take it and not just say, "Oh, you made a mistake," but he's gonna say, "Oh, you were doing was abominable."
So that's an interesting approach. The audience is only the person prone to making an Evelis type mistake, and it's using the Lates as a consequence. Yeah. Right, not as a subject. That's interesting. Never seen the Lates used that way before. Yeah. But you see that people do make this. People do well. Again, we have support. This alone would not be enough for me, but the fact that we have support from the previous pasuk about people will regard you in a certain way based on like the line of thinking that you're saying. I think that supports your approach. And people are afraid. Like there's certain people who don't really care. They care more about whether people will say it's a good or a bad plan, and how they will look when the plan plays out or doesn't, than if it's actually like a good or a bad plan. Right. So let's develop that approach. Right. So zimas ivelas chatas. So it's so hard for me to remember. Zimas ivelas. So foolish planning, chatas, is regarded as a sin by people who are not fools, and foolish planning will be regarded as an abomination to the late, and therefore you should not make a decision along those lines. Okay, so the question you want to add to that, or you have a different approach?
Sure. Question.
Sure.
Is a late someone? Do we understand between someone who plans things or not?
Typically not. And it's funny, typically not, because the late is typically not doing things. right? That's an interesting thing, right? One of the qualities of the lates is he's either Yosef Kranos, and he's not a contributing member to society. He just says a lot of stuff, but he doesn't really do stuff. So I don't even know what the lates' attitude towards planning is.
Well, I think the thing about the planning foolishness is that I think other people who are able to have perspective, even if they're not like chachamim, can see, oh, this is a bad idea. But the Velis isn't able to like accept their perspective.
Okay, I got a good approach or a good example of this. So on the flight, I watched this documentary I'd never heard of called The Pez Outlaw, about this guy whose life was revolved around smuggling in illegal Pez dispensers to the United States, because apparently there are two Pez headquarters. There's the European division and the United States division, and part of the deal of having the setup like that is that the U.S. would have complete jurisdiction over all the United States things. And it was headed off by this guy who was the president of the Pez company called the President. But it's made this guy he went straight to the factories and then just smuggled them in duffel bags. What was that? European ones. And so these things were completely rare. The guy, I think the figure was he would buy them for 25 cents and then sell them for $5 until he became his own market, and then he made like millions of dollars. We're talking millions of dollars from Pez dispensers.
What's so special about these
Yeah,
guys?
and it's crazy. It's
never had
it's a crazy document. But anyway, he was talking about how like customs looks like really weird. We have double bags full of Pez dispensers, right? So he said his plan was, the interview him and his son, who was like helping him, and his son's like, yeah, so my dad's plan was maybe, and this guy's a guy with this grizzled guy with this huge beard. He looks like a homeless guy, and the dad. So the son said, and the son was like a more worldly person. So the son said that so my dad's plan, he knew people were going to question him at customs. So he decided to lean into the crazy eccentric look, So then they cut to the father and he's like, yeah, so I would deliberately not sleep for 24 hours so that I would have this like this crazy look about me. And then the son was like, and they were suspicious. And then the guy's like, yeah, it was a horrible idea. And the guy, this was a guy who clearly had a business sense, but he just did not plan things well. He made a bunch of really, really bad decisions, in this whole thing. And anyway, this is an example came to mind. But anyway.
You could be a chacham, but not execute plans well.
Yeah, and you could even, and again, the thing that is that stands out about this example is you can have a valid objective, but planning is the way you go about achieving that objective. It could be just like total foolishness. Yeah.
Different read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, a different read. And I want to develop this read first. Okay. Yeah. So Zima. Okay. So the question is going to be, why are we taking this route at persuading this guy? What do we get out of this fact that we're saying there's going to be two levels of people viewing you negatively? One is the regular people will view this as a chatas, and then the late will mock you. Yeah.
Well, I'd say I think this is discouraging a person from I'd say making a hasty plan. Let's say they know that normally they should think things through.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, maybe maybe this time I'll just do this thing, see what happens.
Yeah.
And saying, it's not just that people will look at you bad if it's if it oh yeah, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah.
It's that then also the lace is going to spin it as worse than it is.
Right. Okay. So I think the I'm just going to undergird that with I think the main idea is that I like your first move, which is that this is a strategy for avoiding making hasty decisions. And I think that many times the actual consequences of your decisions are not going to be enough to deter you, because you clearly think that you're going to be getting good consequences, right? So like that's not going to deter you. So in other words, you're going to have a blind spot because you're so enamored by the end that you're seeking, and you think that this is going to lead you there, that you're just going to rush headfirst into it. But no one likes to look like a fool. This almost reminds me, this is like the opposite of what Rabbi Moskowitz says is the best lo lishma. The best lo lishma is you want to be seen as a chacham. And so at least if you want to be seen as a chacham, even if you're motivated by ego, you'll be inclined to make decisions as a chacham would make them. And this is the flip side of that, which is no one wants to look like a fool. Even fools don't want to look like fools, right? And so this could stop you in your tracks. And I do think this is like the imagery I'm picturing here is when a road is closed off and you've got like the roadblocks. First half is like roadblock number 1, and second half is roadblock number 2. Like the first half is like, is people are going to look at this as a mistake. And then, so for some people that would be enough. Like, okay, fine. I'll risk it. I'll risk making a mistake. And then no, the latim of the world are going to excoriate you. They are going to completely ruin your reputation. And then person's like, oh, okay, and I think in this world that we're in right now, in the information age, this is an even better, like a more usable strategy because of how fast word spreads and about how the media cycles operate, that having your like reputation be like I'm thinking of another example. So I saw this Saturday Night Live skit from this past week of this conservative congressman, I forgot what state or whatever, who was known for like his like anti-LGBT stance, was caught multiple times liking like these very, very like this very, very promiscuous posts by this like 20-year-old guy, and then they interviewed this guy. So I watched the SNL skit, but I was like, okay, I got to understand what like this guy's deal is. And so like it was such a like shameful thing, this guy, because this guy and shameful on multiple levels. It's shameful in terms of his like his morality. It's shameful in terms of his hypocrisy, in terms of his party, and like if that guy were to know how, I was thinking it's SNL because how much he would be mocked, like the mockery is the real killer there. Like it's just
He just liked the post.
He was commenting on it also, and like fire emojis, and it was like so embarrassing.
It wasn't just like
no. In real life, the guy was doing this. SNL, they made fun of him, but like it was like so embarrassing. Like it was clear. This is clearly a person who I guess just knows enough how to use social media that he was using social media, but not that these things are. And it was under his senator's like a Instagram account. Like it was just a crazy guy, Yeah, but anyway, sorry. Were you gonna was someone gonna say something? Oh yeah, example, yeah.
Of this type of thing.
Sure.
Discouraging me from doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I get stuck at work, I'll like ask for help, but always before I ask, I'll like double check all of the things that I should be double checking.
Yeah.
Just so that I don't like ask for help and then like hop on a call with someone and then like they're like, oh, did you check this thing? And it's like, yeah, no, and then that fixes it.
Right. I mentioned lo b'ayis and lo maid earlier, but I think this is an interesting thing because lo b'ayis and lo maid means you shouldn't care about what people think of you, otherwise you're not going to learn, right? But and therefore you should be willing to ask, like it says in Mivchar Paninim, ask foolish questions. I think one of the meforshim quotes that on that Mishnah in Avos. But on the other hand, like you can use that same emotion to save yourself from making bad decisions. It's interesting, like tightrope to walk, so like what you just said is a good example of that. Is if you were too ashamed to ask for help, that would be making a mistake. But if you were too hasty, like in other words, if you neglected caring about your ego to the point where you would skip steps in your own diligence because of the fear of how you would be viewed, that would also be a fault, So like you have to, and I feel like many times a person will think that they're really caring about their reputation, but they're really just giving into the imperfection of being ashamed, and like it's impeding their learning. But it's interesting tightrope.
Yeah, it is very interesting because like we get a lot of new people at the office, and sometimes they ask a really dumb questions. Oh, how do you make an email?
Yeah.
I mean, like at a certain point, I get any response on Lomi, but at the same time, that's like a really dumb question.
Yeah, right.
On YouTube.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was the. I don't know if this was before your time, but there was a website called lngtfy.com. Which is, let me Google it for you. Let me Google that for you, right? And basically what you would do is you would, it would create a link. It would create a link where if the person clicked on the link, it would bring up Google and then type in the word and then click search, which was just a very, very like passive aggressive way of of telling someone that let me just Google.
They even like had instructions. It's like pull up Google.
Yeah, right. And it is amazing. I still am confronted with this in like people like even like your age. People, I don't know why people don't Google stuff. Like people will, I'm totally fine using the Rabbi Schneeweiss discussion chat for for questions and discussions. But when someone just wants to I'm assuming that people have already Googled it, because that's the first thing I'm gonna do, and it's just but yeah, there's a certain bare minimum.
I could have Googled what predicate means, but just for the time.
Yeah, no, that made sense. Yeah. But yes.
Sorry.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
I had that other approach.
Sure. Let me just wrap this up really quickly. So just to summarize in one sentence, we have here. So this is teaching a strategy for avoiding hasty decisions, which is thinking about not the consequences of the decision, but the consequences of having your foolish planning exposed, which is going to be a severe blow to your ego, and you can use that to your advantage, even though you shouldn't let that stop you from learning. That's the one sentence summary. Yeah.
So is that to say that chatas isn't bad enough? Even though it's a bad decision.
Yeah.
So, right. The reason to not do it is because the person who might be doing it is not thinking about the consequence. They think about what people are going to
So right. So the real reason to do it is going to be because of the consequence, but the reason that's going to actually affect your motive is going to be the chatas. And again, I think this fits in really well with the previous pasuk of Machshavah Lab, lo bal mzimus yikrau, and then chatas yikrau, and toeva yikrau. It's going to be people are going to call you that, and that's going to stop the guy. Okay, yes, new approach.
Okay. Also, we were talking about Yvel as being a short-term pleasure. Right?
Usually, yeah.
So you're just
yeah.
Okay, so I was reading this as suggestions on how to be a good pleasure seeker.
Okay.
Okay, so to not plan out what your pleasures, and particularly short-term pleasures, not plan those out, rather just do it on the whim, and that's the way you're going to best enjoy these things.
Yeah.
If you were to build up, and then also that would be then a toiva to someone who likes to find easy ways to pick at people. That's a really dumb thing to actually try to plan out pleasures. In that, whatever these pleasures are, if you were to fantasize about them and try to build them up and try to figure out how everything's going to work, you're putting in so much energy and then it's not going to pan out. If you're just a small little high from something, then you're good. But if you were to put in a whole bunch of planning, then you're going to mess yourself up.
Okay, so the planning. So how are you going to mess yourself up if you're putting? I understand the investment of energy. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be really, really bad.
Yeah. So either if it doesn't work out,
that's
not great. Or just in general, if it doesn't work out, or even if it does work out, no matter what, there is going to be all that you fantasize, and it's never going to actually make it to all you fantasize.
I see.
You're going to mess on that, and if you didn't have anything planned, just whatever happens in the moment, you're going to get 100% of what you got in the moment.
Right, make it bad consequences. Yeah, but
and
right.
Then also, insofar as if you were to start planning things, then you're building this up as being a good or something of value.
Yeah,
and then your mind is going to generally gravitate more towards that and thinking and operating in that way instead of just this is something random nice that happened.
Okay, and then what's the second half? Or do you not have the second half?
So the second half is then, either, I think you could go down that's just an easy thing to pick on. Then also, insofar as the late season people who don't plan or possibly likely don't plan all that much, that then they know even the lates would say that's a really, really dumb thing to do. It's
okay, interesting. See late team making fun of people who make mistakes Like, that is something I could see within the realm of a lates. I think to say that the late is going to recognize the folly of that type of foolishness, that's like a high level, so I would be less comfortable saying. I hear the first half. Second half I think needs a little bit of work. I just want to state approach that I have just to get it on the thing. The way I'm inclined to think it, and I want to approach this, try to do this tomorrow, is I'm going to go with plotting is a sin to the foolish man, and plotting is an abomination to the person who is a lates, meaning that it's not enough that, and this is going with a more severe way of condemning the avil. It's not just, see, again, let's take the Pesi. Pesi also is seduced by short-term thinking, but he's open to thinking and planning. If you show him that he have a plan that'll work out, but to the avil, it's like anathema to him. Like the very move of let's think this through is something he's turned off to, and same thing to the lates. But I haven't fleshed this out yet. Yeah,
it's interesting because I think my idea might be a little bit of a contrast to yours.
Okay.
I just wanted to explain the second half of the pasuk with my approach. Is
this a new approach
or the first adding to my
okay,
approach,
sure, yeah.
Right? So
which is that it's a chatas to reality.
It's it's a chatas to reality.
Yeah.
It's like a mistaken
way
of thinking. But at least, it is interesting. At least he's still in the realm of thinking.
Yeah.
He's still in the realm.
Because he's planning, he's just doing it foolishly, right?
He just does it. Maybe he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
He's a knowledge. I mean, it's still a mistake. We're not justifying it's a mistake.
Yeah.
But the lates, it seems like the lates is even like anti that idea of thinking.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So
So
he's loathed by people. Like I would hate a guy who's like doesn't even like put in the effort and energy to actually even think about it. I think he's worse than the deal because he's not even in the realm of that.
So I will tell you one thing, which is that the lates. I want to mention when you were asking about like whether he what his attitude is towards planning or whatever. So the lates doesn't. I said late to me don't do anything. Well, here's the thing. The one thing that they do, which is mocking, they don't have to plan that. It's an immediate instinctual outlet of just like aggressive mocking. So that fits in. Yeah. Last thing, and we'll stop. Or were you looking up?
I was looking up for David's point. There was an offhand that came to mind, but I didn't know what it was.
Oh yeah.
It was like a calculated bad stupid decision.
That sounds familiar.
And I think the one I was thinking of was Ritzas for Lam Lahara.
Oh yeah. Feet running quickly do evil. Mishlei calls that a toiva, by the way. Really? Yeah, it's in chapter 6. That's one of the 7 things that Hashem hates.
And similar to premeditated, really calculated bad decision is just using a lot of energy for something that.
Yeah, that is good. We'll end with this as soon as I read it. Sheish hina sane Hashem v'sheva toavas nafsho. 7 things Hashem hates, and the 7th one is an abomination to his soul, so to speak. But it's unknown. Question: which one is the 7th one? Okay, what's the order? Einaim ramos, haughty eyes, lashon shaker, false tongue, yadayim shokos dam naki, hands that shed innocent blood, leiv chorish machshavos oven, a heart that plots thoughts of iniquity, raglaim maharos labrutz lara'a, feet that hasten and run to do evil, yafich kazavim eit shaker, one who spouts lies is a false witness, mushalech madanim binachim, and one who starts quarrels between people. All right, this is a very fun pasuk to think about, but so many directions. I thought we were going to feel paralyzed, but we got some nice approaches brewing. All right, so we'll have to see how they play out tomorrow. Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who wants to go to